Got it.
Thank you so much for joining us here on Screen Watching, Paul Anthony Nelson and the lovely Perri Cummings. Give us a little bit of Apparitions 101. What can you tell us about the film?
It's a kind of it's our little journey through kind of horror history, really.
Yeah.
It's sort of
starts as a kind of 90s urban kind of scream-like horror, and then goes through that kind of urban ghost story into the gothic horror with the delicious
Australian gothic,
Australian gothic. Goes full ghost story and then ends as something very different, but you have to see it to find out what it ends like.
That would be telling.
Yeah. Yes, that would be the spoiler that we don't like. So tell us about the production of it. Is it that classic sort of independent film, shoot it when you can on weekends, took 4 years to make, or was this a rush production? How did it all come together?
We kind of shoot like the great Hollywood musicals make theatre. It's like, here's a box of costumes, let's put on a show. Get your friends together, get a great cast of often kind of Melbourne kind of theatre actors, because they're so wonderful to work with, and smash it out. We filmed over 24 days. I think it took us 4 months altogether. Wow. It was weekends, but a lot of those were particularly long weekends, especially because we had to go away for our major locations. So we had to take our cast and crew away for that. That was 2 very long 4-day weekends.
So it was 24 days made up mostly of long weekends over a 3-month period. So it wasn't like a bad taste scenario where Peter Jackson's making the film on weekends over 3 years or something.
Sure.
It's not like that. But yeah, we raised the tiny budget, production budget from donations, from tax deductible donations. And then from there, we sort of financed the back end, us and our executive producer. Yeah. But the whole thing is, the whole thing cost well under $60,000.
Yeah. And the longest part obviously was doing all of our post-production during a pandemic.
Of course,
like that took quite a long time.
Did all the work in pre-production end up on the screen? Was this a heavily storyboarded film that looks the way you thought it would look, or was it a more organic sort of flowing production that formed in and of itself? That's
a really great question. I think it was a bit from both. We love to collaborate early with our creatives, and I think basically we think that pre-production is a springboard so that we can capture the exciting creativity when we're there. So a lot of things really evolved on set, and we had the time and the space to really play with that stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting because films in the past we've heavily storyboarded, but this one we didn't. But we always heavily shot list. So we've always got a very sort of specific shot list. But yeah, this is the first thing in a while that we didn't storyboard, and we kind of went in with our cinematographer and discussed visual concepts and whatever we could do on our tiny budget. And I think it really does. It was very important. It's interesting. Our first film, Trench, was in 4:3, sort of evoking films noir past. And this one, I really wanted a widescreen. I really wanted the John Carpenter scope.
We do a kind of moving storyboard in rehearsals. We do like a lean shoot. So we literally took 3 days and shot the film with the actors, just in like a studio environment, so that we could, and then we piece it together like a film so we can have a look at what's working, what we need to play with.
How the story's running.
So we kind of have a moving storyboard, and we highly recommend that. It's great. And it's also really fun.
Fascinating process. Yeah, it sounds like a fun way to generate the energy and generate the chemistry between the cast.
Exactly.
You wouldn't be in Monster Fest. You wouldn't be running Cinema Viscera if it wasn't for the blood and guts of movies, old and new. Tell us your principles. Tell us your thoughts on screen violence and how that applies to Apparitions.
It's interesting. It's almost like, I think we wanted, a lot of the violence in Apparitions happens off screen. And we're very, I don't know, there's times I kind of wanted to, next time, let's make it gorier.
I think with us, it's really important because we very much come of that ethos of putting real people into heightened genres, so they don't have superhero skills, and the violence hurts. But they very much, the one thing that they all have is tenacity. So it's seeing them absolutely fight tooth and nail with very little skills to get through this terrible situation. So I think it's not about, like, for us, it becoming a massive gore fest, although we do love gore fest and we have a fantastic visual effects designer who is amazingly brilliant. And there's a couple of really delicious moments that she's
there are.
the film. But it's about making the audience feel that this hurts, you know, and also that less is more. Like, we're both massive reading nerds, and, you know, we know that your mind can create something so much more terrible. And using that beautiful darkness principle, you know, what is in the darkness, you know, you don't necessarily have to show it because the audience is already imagining their own fears there.
And it's also that thing that Quentin Tarantino was quoted as saying, like, violence is another color in the palette, you know, and it's I've always, when deployed, you know, properly and in this sort of fashion, it's an extremely effective tool and is very cinematic.
You mentioned early on, you mentioned Carpenter, Paul, and you know, dropped subgenres like Australian Gothic. What are the films that have formed your love of this type of movie making and continue to inspire what you do with both on screen and with cinema viscera?
Yeah, one of my true norths is George A. Romero.
Oh yes.
So it's someone that sort of did their own thing. They were relatively regional when they started out, you know, coming from Pittsburgh and shooting everything over there and making things, you know, making films like Martin and Season of the Witch, and, you know, on these sort of $60,000 to $100,000 budgets, and Night of the Living Dead, of course, and The Crazies and things like that. And, you know, having this social conscience beneath them, but first and foremost making an entertaining, visceral experience on these, you know, on these small budgets independently with cast and crew who would be friends and work from film to film together. And, you know, and I think if you watch his film Night Riders, it's almost like a mission statement for who he is and what he and his crew do. And I'm endlessly inspired by him and that example. And there's heaps more as well.
And I completely relate to, like, nightmare subconscious artistic visions. Like, I think Lost Highway is my favorite film for a reason. And then you throw in character generated works, like a massive Robert Altman fan, like Shortcuts, delicious, like character driven work. I have a bit of that kind of art house sensibility coming from theater, you know, that dance, like visually completely kind of delicious, but then taking you into the psychology of the, like, it's almost like their emotional, you know, state, you know, resonates in the environment, like manifesting that as an outer reality. So I think that kind of, we have this delicious kind of blend of art house meets grindhouse.
You took the words out of my mouth. I'm the grindhouse, she's the art house.
And that comes through in the film. It certainly does, because there's moments of grindhouse, but your DOP and you guys did a great job in making the film look beautiful. I unfortunately, you know, I had to watch it on the laptop here, but I think it's going to be a great big screen experience for the Monster Fest viewers and beyond Monster Fest.
Fantastic. Yeah. Thank you for saying that.
And as DOP, wonderful. Tim Egan is absolutely a master. You know, he's award-winning for his shorts for a very good reason.
Sure.
Yeah. He directed a little short that your viewers and listeners should catch called Curve, which is floating around on the internet there, about a woman trapped on a curved surface in the middle of nowhere, and it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, he's kind of having him on board really elevates our work.
Where does the next iteration of your work come from? What are you working on next? Is it expansion of the Apparitions universe, or is it something fresh?
I always said that Apparitions, I designed Apparitions to be the 5th film in a 6-film franchise.
He's already plotted out, so yeah.
4 prequels. Yeah. But yeah, we're currently writing a couple of horror films not connected to Apparitions, one based on a classic story and the other something very personal to us.
In a horror environment.
Yeah.
What we love to do.
And you know, as a TV project that's been long gestating.
So the next step for us is just to get the scripts to a place that we really love them, and then go through the mill of trying to attach a little bit of funding and also go into development. We really want to go into a serious development phase, because I think that we are just wanting to expand our continuously expand our creativity, and also just have more fun with it.
And again, like, we love genre. So, I mean, I think we're sort of at that point where we realize we're probably going to be primarily horror filmmakers, but we're also going to explore other genres here and there as well, just to get, like, you know, we did one with Trench. We're going to sort of do our little sort of spins on others, because we just love working in genre. But I think horror is something very dear to us.
And there's so many areas of that to explore, like, you know, with the scripts that we're developing, you know, I'm very much looking at like a psychological horror monster movie, whereas, you know, Paul is looking at this very real people ending up in their nightmare in the Australian countryside kind of film that may have a cult element.
These all sound wonderful. Is the industry, is the professional environment, are the investors there to make this happen as an ongoing thing? Because you find that we try to get these sort of films funded. It invariably comes down to, you know, your Patreons or your crowd-funded sort of events, because despite there being Wolf Creeks and all these sort of successful horror and genre films coming out of Australia, getting the funding bodies to stump up for them is tough.
Yeah, exactly. And we've managed to, like, with this film, we were really lucky and managed to secure a sales agent. So we're sort of starting to see some international kind of release and traction there. And I think that we're just going to, I think that's the thing. I think a lot of it's going to be thinking globally, making locally, but thinking globally in terms of resources. And, you know, and we'll go wherever the money is.
You know, fingers crossed, and you know, that'll be where the hard work from us, getting, you know, a good distributor and, you know, potentially an international sales agent, and perhaps getting some advanced sales is probably more the area that we'll be working in. Like, and also we make films on a small budget for a couple of really good reasons. Like, we really want to retain artistic control of our work, so that we're expanding our vision and our creatives' vision and our actors' vision. And also, we don't want to wait 5 years for some funding to come through. So if there's a way with the next one that we can make, you know, a $500,000 film rather than, you know, a $10 million film, and we can make a really great film and it can be an extension of our vision, that's kind of what we'll be looking at next, I think.
Yeah, it's very much on that kind of sort of Romero
incremental, like, you know, building up.
I hope it happens sooner rather than later, because I love the way you made Apparitions, and I'm really excited to see what's happening down the path for you guys. Thank you so much for being part of the Screen Watching podcast, and congratulations on the film, and good luck with the Monster Fest team. They're a Grant and the guys and girls down there. They're a crazy bunch. They get behind both the Melbourne genre film scene and the Australian scene as well. So that it's good to be in bed with them.
Absolutely. They're a lovely bunch.
Yeah, they're great.
Our short cigarette screen there in 2016, so this feels like a nice little homecoming.
Yeah,
so,
excellent.
We're
all the very best with the screening, and thank you.
Thanks, Simon.
You.
Thanks for your lovely words, and thanks for the interview.